Sorry about that. My mic was muted. So welcome everyone to Africa Digital Governance Summit. Welcome everyone to Africa Digital Governance Summit, A1, and this is the second panel session. Right now, we are back for another exciting conversation, and today we'll be discussing about a very, very interesting topic on youth entrepreneurship and the future of work, building trust, resilience, and accountability system. And so today I'll be introducing the moderators very shortly, and their bios will be read. But just so that you know, please, you are not allowed to unmute your mic until you are being called up to either speak or ask a question. For now, we only have the moderators and the speakers have the opportunity to unmute their mic when it's time for them to speak. And please also, where you can, put on your videos, especially for the organizing team, so that we can have better video quality. And this session is being streamed live on our YouTube channel for Global Shapers Protocol Hub, and it's also available on the ADGS website. We have put together a very, very structured program that is set to blow your mind, and we look forward to you being a part of these interesting conversations that we'll be having. Definitely, for today, we are also trying to bring in something very innovative. We are going to be having breakout sessions at some point within this call. So when we get to that point, the moderator will introduce that particular aspect and how we are going to go about it. Just so that you are clear, we have two moderators for this session. I believe one moderator is going to be joining us shortly because of network challenges. But we have Mazio Nyanyo here. Mazio is the curator of Global Shapers Cape Coast Hub in Ghana. And we also have Bella Victor, founding curator of Global Shapers Owerri Hub, that will be moderating this section as well. Then for our speakers, I'll be sharing my screen shortly to introduce our speakers. So guys, brace up. At this point, I'll play the ADGS introductory video so that we can ease up a little and get set. While you're getting set, I'll just play the ADGS video. Okay.
Sorry.
While you're getting set, I'll play the ADGS video.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Let me do a second, I'll set it up. Okay. If you can hear me. What happened? There's no sound. Bye. vision, where technology is intertwined with governance, here comes an amazing event, the Africa Digital Governance Summit. Africa Digital Governance Summit is a program hosted by Global Shepherd Hub in collaboration with Global Shepherd Hubs in Nigeria and the Africa region.
Are you ready to embrace the future? Innovators from across the continent.
This groundbreaking summit is an unparalleled platform where minds converge, ideas are ignited, strategies are forged from bustling metropolis to rural communities. This event serves as a catalyst for progress throughout.
The Africa Digital Governance Summit aims to accomplish three crucial roles. The first is to foster a deep understanding of digital governance and how technology intersects with the diverse needs and challenges faced by nations and communities.
The summit is a call to action for participants to collaborate, share insights, and create actionable solutions that can shape the digital landscape of Africa. Together, we can pave the way for inclusive, transparent, and accountable government.
The importance of attending this summit cannot be overstated. It offers a unique opportunity to engage with high-level decision makers, experts, and thought leaders who are shaping the digital governance landscape.
Whether you're a policymaker, a tech enthusiast, an entrepreneur, or social advocate, attending the Africa Digital Governance Summit will equip you with the knowledge, connections, and inspiration needed to drive change within your sphere of influence.
So mark your calendars and join us at the Africa Digital Governance Summit, where Africa's digital future unfolds. Together we'll build a more connected, inclusive, and prosperous continent.
Visit adgs.netlify.app for more information to secure your place at this transformative event. See you there.
Okay, so right about now, we are going to be introducing our moderators and the panelists for the next session. And just give me a minute. Okay, so for this session, today, this session is on entrepreneurship, youth entrepreneurship, and the future of work. And leading this session, we'll have Mazio. Mazio is the curator of Cape Coast Hub. Let me share my screen so that you can see the profiles of our guests. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Can see.
Okay, great. So we have okay. So this is panel session 2. And network issue.
Hi, Emeka, you can carry on.
Okay, so thank you very much, Abigail. I'm having issues with my network over here. Okay, so this is for Dela Mazio. Dela Mazio currently holds the position of Vice President of Finance and Administration of the Ghana FinTech and Payments Association, and also the Hub Director at the Digital Transformation Hub, where she oversees the development and implementation of innovative technological solutions. Is Kelvin on the call? Kelvin, I think you can take it off. My network is really challenging. Yeah.
All right. So can you hear me? Am I audible enough? Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. So after Mazio, we have Bella Victor. Bella Victor is the managing partner at Social Lander Digital Agency. He is a marketing professional with over 8 years of experience in the digital marketing industry. He holds an inbound marketing certification from HubSpot, a social media certification from HotSuite, and a professional diploma in digital marketing from Digital Marketing Institute. He has done intensive leadership training with the Young African Leaders Initiative, GIMPA Ghana. Bella Victor has empowered over 1,000 students, entrepreneurs, and startups through his student business club and social media training and increasing their online presence. Bella is the passionate and emerging technologies in the social space and involved with nonprofit for low-income and first-generation students. So over to you, Mazio and Bella.
Okay, awesome.
Kelvin, you can read Mazio's profile properly. I didn't finish it because of network issues.
All right. Okay. Mazio currently holds the position of Vice President of Finance and Administration at the Ghana FinTech and Payments Association, and also the Hub Director at the Digital Transformation Hub, where she oversees the development and implementation of innovative technological solutions. As a founder and CEO of GD Trust, she is committed to promoting financial literacy and enhancing access to financial services. She is deeply passionate about leveraging technology to foster sustainable economic development and community building. Previously, she had served as the creator of Global Shaper Cape Coast Hub, a group of young leaders dedicated to shaping our community for present and future generation, and have worked as an early career researcher in ethics and the EMDIYA research project, a collaboration between the University of Ghana and the University of Oxford. So Mazio, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that profile. Also, I'm glad to be here for the Africa Digital Governance Summit and also to be moderating this session. I think we'll start by reading out the speakers' profiles. So I believe you have the slides here. Awesome. Please forgive me if I butcher some of the names. I apologize in advance. So we have Eni Oshi, and Eni Oshi is an outcome-oriented entrepreneur and passionate agripreneur. She is also the co-founder of Matalas NASA Group, where she spearheads operation in, forgive me, I don't see that, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Agistri, and leads the team at Pharmasphere in Nigeria. Her work in promoting food security has earned her emergence as one of the winners of the 2022 Agri-Pitch competition by the Africa Development Bank, and one of the top 26 youngest entrepreneurs in Africa by Anisha Prize. In 2022, she emerged as top 10 women innovators in technology by the Tech for Impact and the UK-based Children Investment. She further emerged as the Lagos State winner in the Agro Hackathon Challenge by EDC, Pan-Atlantic University, and MasterCard Foundation. She was also the national winner of the Climate Launchpad 2021. And in 2022, her team was awarded the champion team by the United Nations FAO and Xinjiang University, China. Annie's commitment to innovations further earned her the recognition from CNN in 2021 as one of Africa's audacious ones, and Ivory Airy, USA, as the Black Woman Entrepreneurs Pitch winner, amongst others. So awesome. Annie, we're really glad to have you. I'll move on to the next profile, Joseph Zoto. Joseph Zoto is an innovative and trailblazing entrepreneur from Ghana, driving the future of work and entrepreneurship. With a decade of experience in startups and technology ecosystems, Joseph co-founded Talents in Africa, an accelerator focused on youth employment. Passionate about inclusion, he designs inclusive programs, employability, and entrepreneurship, empowering young people, women, and persons with disability. Joseph's commitment to equity is evident in his impactful projects, supporting over 1,000 youth in various initiatives. As a sought-after business consultant, Joseph helps enterprises optimize operations and drive sustainable. With his expertise and unwavering dedication, Joseph is a driving force for positive change in. Nice. So we have two more speakers, yes. So we have Precious Eberry. Precious is a renowned development practitioner and policy analyst with specific interest in education, policy, technology, governance, and leadership development, where she strives to bridge inequality gaps in African democracy by engaging critical stakeholders, encouraging youth to participate effectively in pushing for accountability and transparency, both at the grassroots and national level. Precious bagged a master's degree in social and public policy at the Cardiff University, Wales, United Kingdom. She's headed various youth-led organizations in different capacities and sits on the leadership and advisory positions of multiple international organizations, such as the Commonwealth Students Association, the Young African Leaders Initiative, Abuja, an initiative of the United States government in Nigeria, DO, which is DoTakeAction.org. Precious has over 6 years of experience working in the development sector with NGOs, INGOs, and companies in development and local governance. She has worked with approximately 100 stakeholders in 4 African countries, including Botswana, Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, and the United Kingdom. She's also an alumni of the School of Politics, Policy, and Government, whilst effectively promoting the Office of the Citizens in Nigeria. The great profiles that we have on our panel. I'm really honored to be leading this discussion. So Tatenda Murigo. So I hope I got all your names right. So Tatenda is the senior year BSc student at the University of Zimbabwe's Biotechnology and Biochemistry department. Her research project is currently focused on the use of nanotechnology and medicinal plants in drug discovery applications. She serves as one of 3 African representatives of the International Union of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Training Initiative Leadership Committee as the communications officer. So she's coordinating and moderating events, workshops, and webinars for scientists across the globe. She's actively involved in science education and outreach activities, both physically and remotely. She's also a youth instructor at the Zimbabwe Flying Labs, where she teaches young students on drone technology and robotics applications in the field of science and technology. She is she's the after co-lead for the Global Shapers Harare Hub, Zimbabwe. She has also served as a conference and workshop organizer of the Youth STEM 2030 Research Conference 2022, which promotes visibility for STEM Africa for us. This is a conference by the National Biotechnology Authority of Zimbabwe, fundamentals of next generation sequencing, and the IUBMB influencing science policy, which is widening the scope of science communications. She's also moderated multiple science arrangement events, including the Africa Science Buskers Festival 2022, which was held with an audience of over 500 students. So the rise of artificial intelligence and robotics has revolutionized a wide range of industries. And this has sparked fascinating debates about the future of work. So myself and our esteemed panelists will be diving to these discussions that have been raised, such as will AI replace human jobs, and is AI a force for good or a threat to human survival? Now, this sub-theme recognizes that technological advancements are fundamentally shaping the nature of work and necessitating adaptable governance systems capable of effectively addressing today's workforce, evolving needs and challenges. The purpose of this session is to delve into innovative governance models and policies for remote work and the gig economy, with a focus on ensuring equitable and inclusive opportunities for young people. So we'll look at how automation, artificial intelligence, and robotics are changing jobs and skills. And by delving into these issues, we can gain a better understanding of the potential benefits and challenges that these advancements may bring, as well as how to navigate them in a way that brings benefits to both individuals and society as a whole. I believe I can get started. If there's any other things that you would like me to include at this point, Chukwamaka, I'll be free to share. But barring that, I hope we can turn on our videos for the panelists.
Go ahead.
Mazia, please go ahead. I think all our guest speakers are on the session now.
Awesome, thank you. So that I can also be better at navigating the questions, can I also let you speak a little bit about yourselves? Just 2 words, your name and your position again, honorable speakers, please. We can start with Precious because I can see you. There's 2 sentences and then on to this topic. Precious, we can't hear you yet.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Hi, Mazio. Good day, everyone connected. I'm Precious Iberi and I run Do. We're building a critical mass of 1 billion plus people across Africa, taking actions on key issues to care about. And I'm happy to share about this to everyone while we have some nice discussions today. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Okay. Please just volunteer yourself.
Hi, Mazia. Okay, so I'm Joseph Zetu, from Talents in Africa. I'm the growth lead and a co-founder as well. Just to follow in the steps of Precious, we are also bent on helping about 1 million young talents or Africans acquire jobs or meaningful employment by the year 2040. So thank you.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatenda. Apologies, my bandwidth is quite low, so video might be a bit tricky, but I am a science communicator and I'm very much focused on science education and science engagement. And I'm also an avid science policy enthusiast. I'm really looking forward to speaking about the future of work, especially in the STEM area. Thank you.
Hi, Matthew. Hello, everyone. So I'm Enei Oshi, and I work with AgriCity to enable more young people venture into agribusiness and grow their livelihood through various aspects of farming. I'm super excited to be here, and I look towards the conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for making it. I think we'll just dive straight in, and I'm going to start with you, Joseph. And my question to you is, so how do you assess the potential impact of automation on employment across different industries and sectors? And are there any new job opportunities that can arise as a result of automation, or industries that are more susceptible to job displacement?
Okay, Mazio, thank you so much for this question, and thank you to all our guests and audience who have joined us today. So this is a very interesting question that I'd like to take it in two parts. And the first part will deal with how we assess the impact of automation on the future of jobs. So automation really is what has pinnacled, or what we will look at as the fourth industrial revolution and what it brings. We've had about 3 industrial revolutions already gone by. The first one powered by coal, the second one powered by gas, and then we had electronic and nuclear as well. And now we are within the period where internet and automation is what is fueling our revolution. Now, as a young person, how do you assess the skills that you have now, and to also prepare yourself for the future of work? Because as we are looking at things, the implications for automation, as far as the future of work is concerned, will impact almost every industry or sector that you can think of. Think of manufacturing, think of automobiles, think of transportation. Every sector, even within the service sector, is affected. So now, jobs that require creativity, jobs that require complex problem solving and interpersonal skills are the jobs that most likely will be very much available to a lot of people and young persons growing up. But again, to assess the potential, or whether your job will be affected, there are key things that young people must do or take advantage of. First, you will need to be able to identify which parts of the tasks or the roles that you play in your job are most likely to be taken over by automation. Because what happens is that, for instance, if you are working within a hospitality industry, or you are a caterer, or you are someone who is serving, understand that robots can easily do these tasks. So you need to identify your tasks, your roles on a daily basis, and try to understand, are these things that robots can easily take over? Are these things that artificial intelligence fed machines can easily do? Once you understand these things and you analyze them better, then you can assess whether technology is already available that can do these things. Once you understand that technology is already available, then it means you have to upskill, you have to find new ways of doing things so you can still stay relevant within the market. But if these things are things that you realize that, okay, by your estimation, the impact of technology, the feasibility that robots or machines can do the work that you are doing, then most likely you have to now switch to finding new jobs or learning new skills that you can use to take advantage of So once you identify these new opportunities, then it's easier for you to understand the impacts that automation will have on you as a person within the future of work that we are going into. Now, I decided to speak to this and personalize it because there are a lot of materials or research that speaks to the impact on a larger scale, talking about, again, manufacturing, talking about manual labor and everything. It is very obvious that as far as we have AI powered by big data, almost every task that you can do now is easily going to be taken over by machines. And so we will now have to make sure that we are able to position ourselves to take advantage of opportunities such as managing this robots, managing the developing solutions to help take care of this. So this is how I'll briefly address this question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And in the wake of this automation, there are skills that you need to acquire, just like you say, you assess your industry, you assess your stage, and this allows you to move to the next stage. It's not a fear stage where you're supposed to stay in and put your head in the sand. But, and so my next question is to you, Precious. What skills do you think will be in high demand in an era of automation and AI? And how can individuals and acquire these skills to remain relevant in the job market?
Thank you so much, Mizio. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Right. So I'll answer this question. Yeah, thank you. Mazio, okay. Before I answer this question, I want to actually throw a little, was it a picture, a video I saw last week that went viral on the internet where we saw a graphic design and they asked AI, ChatGPT, build this two-story building, right? So we know automation has been everywhere, you know, the era of the fourth revolution, which Zoto rightly said, but some common things that this AI, right, and automation cannot do, right? First is critical thinking and problem solving, right? Second is creativity and innovation. Third, emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills. Now, the reason why I had highlighted all of this is I had a conversation with one of my friends and he was arguing that, oh, AI solves problem, right? And it helps you think. I'm like, yes, it can help you creatively align your thoughts, but it's not an initiator. It can't think creatively, right? It can't solve some specific problems. It can give you response to those things, but it can initiate the solution to some of these problems. And this is where the human factor comes in. And once you have the hack to actually getting some of these three skills, right, you remain relevant in the job market. Now, come back to the job market. Now, let's go back to the job market. We see that unemployment has skyrocketed the past few years, right, currently. And it's hitting around 60%, if I'm not mistaken, in Nigeria. Now, I'm not talking about Africa and the globe at large. The question here is, why are these young youth who has finished university still unemployed? Now, when you meet most business owners, CEOs, they'll tell you one reason. The people who the school is pushing into the job market are not great critical thinkers. They're not innovators. They don't have emotional intelligence. And these are things that you can't automate. And if you really want to remain relevant in the job market, you must step back a bit, right? And have a new dissecting of who you are as a person and how you can learn some of these skills. And these skills are everywhere. You can learn them from YouTube. I'm happy that I was screening this on YouTube. Now we can learn all of these skills on YouTube. You can follow some people who give these teachings, right? And start practicing the skills of creativity and innovation, the skills of emotional intelligence. How can you act with people in your environment? How can you create solutions that can feed back into AI? Because I argue AI has biases, and people who feed in these biases are human beings. So you can now imagine if those human beings who feed in these biases to AI do not have critical thinking, or they're not problem solvers. Can you imagine the mess AI would create? So for us to remain relevant in the job market, right, I would want to leave this 3 key points: critical thinking, creativity and innovation, and emotional intelligence. And trust me, we have a lot more that you can add, but these 3 at least stands out for me. I think that's what I would respond to this question. Yeah.
Tatenda, I hope your internet still allows you to be with us. My question to you is, what role can collaboration between humans and machines play in advancing youth entrepreneurship? How can organizations foster a culture of collaboration and synergy with employees and entrepreneurs?
Thank you so much for the question. I think the first thing that will be very important to do is to dispel and address the fear that comes with automation, especially within African economies and varying industries. The most common misconceptions that technology is going to run us over, which is partly true, but it's like previous speakers have been talking about, depends on the perspective and the strategy that has been built up from that. So the strategy is twofold, on the employee perspective and the employer perspective within an organization. And I think what first needs to be done is to kind of break down the tension of adoption of these technologies. Most companies within the African space are delaying in adopting the technologies, maybe because there's a barrier to entry, but sometimes there's also that fear that the human resource capital part will be lost. But I think being able to develop newer technologies and actually incorporate people into that, so that actually allows us to be able to see the benefits of it and also to see the fruition that comes from that. So I think what I would say first would be, we first have to understand what a machine does. A machine is supposed to help us do our work in a smarter and a faster way. And once we have that mentality, just like what Precious was talking about, it's now about, as an individual, how are we now developing ourselves to be able to befriend this technology or this automation that we're incorporating into our organizations. So I'll just give an example. I am within the drone technology space. I mainly work within the education space, but there's also the actual commercial drone industry that's happening, mainly where it's been used in mining, in agriculture, in construction, for example. And what they're doing now, that there's a lot of drone piloting schools that are happening, and people are being registered to have a drone pilot license, which within the next 5 years is going to be the same as having a regular driver's license. A drone pilot license allows you to be able to fly your drone in an authorized manner, and you're able to use it for various different applications. But what we see now is that a lot of drone pilot schools are now incorporating specialized lessons, which enable you to use the different specialized kind of drones. So what used to be used as knapsacks for irrigation, we're now using drones for the irrigation of our farms and for our fertilization. But for someone to be able to do that with the authority that is necessary, they can get their drone pilot license and be able to incorporate that. So one way in which organizations can bring about that balance and the collaboration and synergy with automated systems would be to actually to promote skills development for their employees. So if you have subsistence farmers or farmers within a farm that you have, that you own, it would be great to actually empower them to get the drone licensing such that they're able to now use the drones and be able to either plant or irrigate or fertilize their crops at a much shorter time and in a smarter way. So this is some of the ways that we can look at automation, especially within organizations, in such a way where we realize that, yes, the technology is there, but it needs humans to be skilled enough to be able to use them, because the technology is only a tool, but as previous speakers have mentioned, we are supposed to be bringing the solutions, the problem solving. And once we shift our mindset, both on a personal and organizational level, I do believe that we're able to see beyond what the surface level limitations that we're currently challenged by are like. I think that would be my contribution to that.
I love that contribution. It's almost like we need to reskill to be able to work in the future, which is essentially what we do as humans, right? With every age, we've had to adapt and get with the program, right? So if we're going to be in this ecosystem, what are the skills that we what can we do better, what skills can we learn, and how can we apply critical thinking and creativity while we're doing. So Annie, I would like to come to you. What I would say is, so looking ahead, what do you envision as the long-term impact automation, AI, and robotics on small business, jobs and skills, essentially, right? How can societies adapt these changes to ensure an inclusive growth and prosperity?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. So, historically, we've seen that technological progresses don't just make jobs redundant, it also creates new ones. And this is why I believe that the long-term impact will be both positive and negative, in that as the use of AI technology increases, small businesses will be able to boost their labor productivity and growth. And I was privileged to stumble on a research by Goldman Sachs recent report, and I noticed that it was clearly reported that we will experience a boost in global GDP by as much as 7% over time due to artificial intelligence and all of this automation and technology. And I believe that small businesses will be able to leverage on this technology to boost various aspects of their businesses. Now, in as much as we know that there'll be positive impacts of this technology, there are also negative impacts, and this is mainly in the disruption that we would experience. Lots of skills will be displaced in the workforce, and this is like the primary risk of AI to the workforce in general, the general disruption that it would likely cause workers, whether they find that their jobs are newly automated or that their job design has fundamentally changed. And an additional risk is that it might lead to firms being able to unintentionally or not violate existing laws about bias, fraud, antitrust, and they would expose themselves to legal or financial risk. And all of these things are why we need the government to present, a clear agenda on how we can guide AI development. Talking about the area of how societies can adapt to these changes, I think the first thing societies would need to look at is awareness, because you can't adapt to a change you're not aware of. How many people are aware that there will be such a huge disruption in the workforce? How many people are aware of this change? How many people are aware of its implication, right? How can these people become more aware about all of the changes that are going to take place in their fields? And how can they be enlightened to prepare for the change better? This would be the first step towards adaptation. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you too. Thank you so much. Just to our participants also, we're rounding up this session, so I want to know if there are any questions in the chat. If you have any questions, please just put them in the chat so that I don't know how that works. So Abigail, are there any questions or not? But barring that, we'll move into the next session. I hope you really understood the insights that we've gotten here. We need to understand what is happening in the future. We need to be rational in our thinking about it. And we also need to get more aware about the things that we need to do to be able to thrive in the new age. So in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, became prevalent and has still remained with us till now, right? I want to get back to you, Precious, on what types of digital infrastructure investment and policies you believe are necessary to support and essentially enhance remote work environment.
Yeah, thank you so much. To answer this question, first, before we talk about new policies, right? I believe everyone understood what happened during the COVID pandemic, where everyone returned to remote work, which is now the future of work, right? And it's very important that we understand what policies we have currently, right? And how we are implementing them before we can now look out for the shortcomings of what we currently have, right? And recommend more policies. As someone with a policy background, I did a research, right? And I discovered that Nigeria currently has developed the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy. And it had a very clear focus to transform Nigeria into a leading leading economy, right? And that was, I've gone through the document, not extensively, but I did a summary of documents, which one of my friends actually did that summary. And I discovered that in that document alone, it gave birth to the National Broadband Plan, which was shared by the CEO of Main One. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up this is policies don't just emanate, right? So once a policy is being birthed, right, and it's been implemented, the recommendation that is being seen from that policy is used to recommend more policies to make sure the key goal and vision for the overarching goal is achieved. And that is why we got the National Broadband Plan. Now, one of the things that people would really struggle in remote work is the issue of access, broadband, right? Reliable and high-speed internet. And this is one policy that the National Digital Economy Policy covered, including the National Broadband Policy Plan covered. So as citizens now, the question is, are we aware of these policies on the ground, right? Are we aware of what the MNOs are doing? How can we advocate and ensure that the MNOs are actively implementing the National Broadband Plan? I was at an event hosted by the UK Aid, right, in Abuja, and we were dissecting this National Broadband Plan where we had key stakeholders from MTN, Airtel, Hawaii. They came there to discuss how they can make connectivity mainstream. Currently, Nigeria we have over 200 million people in Nigeria, and you can attest to the fact that majority of this number are poor, right? According to the World Bank. And now the question is, if we really want to scale this, we need to scale down to the grassroots as well. Because most of these people who actually would be a key particular of the future of work, that's remote working, reside in these areas. And that is why the federal government actually is targeting a $40 billion investment in digital infrastructure to make sure that people in the hard-to-reach community access the wave that will be coming to Nigeria, and also make sure that the country is open to other international investments. Now we've understood that we have policies on the ground already, we can now recommend more policies. I could see that some of these policies already initiated had some loopholes, and I think I would say that another thing that should be enforced on these policies is the robust cybersecurity measures, right? If we're all moving to cloud, right? If we're all going to promote the future of work, which we don't even need to promote it, it's here already, right? We need to actually tighten the cybersecurity measures. And I'm happy that most people in the development space are already taking cybersecurity as a big deal. Same with everyone on this call. We need to understand what cybersecurity means, right? How can you maximize your data? How can you ensure that your data, right, are not being breached? You have your rights. These policies already exist, right? You can sue companies, right? You can sue different brands if they breach your own data policies and plan reflected in the original document. These are things that we need to understand. And another thing I see that is already prevalent, right, is digital collaboration tools, which of course we can see different tools already online. We can see Checkmate, you can see to-do list, can help you with your plan. You can see Notion. We are breathing more. So how can we regulate some of these platforms, right, to make them productive enough and not just reinvent the wheel. So some of these policies should be checkmates, because trust me, a lot of tools, collaboration tools would be bettered. And Africa is a very smart continent where we have people thinking out of the box, trying to develop tools that would help boost productivities. They're coming out. So how can we regulate some of these tools that will be coming out? These are some of the policies that needs to be included in the general document that has already been published by the government. Another key policy, right, that I look forward to seeing its implementation is the cloud infrastructure and storage. Now we understand that we already have lots of cloud services, but there's a problem. The problem now is, while remote work is advancing, a lot of people will be shortchanged in the sense of financial capacity to subscribe to these platforms to host their data. And then these guys would now be off work because they cannot afford that particular subscription. Give example, Google, your Google Mail. You can see that there's already a subscription plan already. And not everybody can afford that. So you can imagine you're working for 4 companies or 2 companies, and everything is just in the cloud. So in the space of 3 months, 4 months, depending on how heavy your work is, your cloud is filled, and you're going to be forced to buy or subscribe to a higher plan. And so we have people who are going to be affected by this future of work and this what's it called again? The remote work system we have. And that is where these policies that we already have needs to be, one, implemented accurately and adequately across all the 36 regions, right? And then secondly, regulated is the key word here, so that there's a balance between the big guys and the small guys. And then we can have a balanced economy that can thrive in the future of remote work. Thank you very much. I hope I did justice to the question.
You did justice to the question. Thank you so much. And I'll jump straight to you, Enyi, because I see your smile. And I can see that you have many ideas to talk of that. So my question to you is, how do governments incentivize businesses to invest in cybersecurity measures and technologies to safeguard work environments against cyber threats?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I believe governments can incentivize businesses to invest in cybersecurity measures by, one, primarily partnering and engaging with key market actors that are already promoting cyber resilience in various sectors. Now, such partnerships can create incentives for these organizations to invest. Recently, I think we have ImmuniWeb. They announced their partnership with Kekam Technologies Limited to help businesses increase cyber resilience and compliance in Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Now, this partnership is structured to allow Kekam Technologies offer their award-winning and globally recognized ImmuniWeb artificial intelligence solutions and lots more to these businesses based in West Africa. I believe that if governments can design such similar schemes and introduce tailor-made programs to help these businesses access information and also the needed resources to improve their cyber resilience, they would be able to afford the cost of all of these softwares and applications. So such calls for partnership can be duly integrated in the development of the Nigerian's national cybersecurity strategy, like other nations do. So, and I know that I think that announced a partnership, right? The Director General of NISDA, Sir Kachifu Inuwa, so he called for regional partnerships among governments to address these increasing challenges of cyber attacks in Africa. I think this was during the ongoing global event on cybersecurity they had in Dubai. And I believe that if technologies or companies that are into improving cybersecurity are able to, partner with the government and look towards this kind of collaborations, it's going to be the easiest way to incentivize businesses to invest in cyber security and also adopt, measures that would enable them safeguard the remote work environment against cyber threats. So this is my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you too. And I want to just slide a little bit in there and also see, barring any government involvement also, and this is directed to you, what other things could businesses themselves do? What other reasons should they be more invested in cybersecurity, right?
Okay, so I think most businesses are not really aware of the dangers of certain levels of cybersecurity attacks. So it's all about, and that's why I love the work of CCNet. She's currently creating awareness, making businesses understand that, oh, your work emails should be separate from your personal emails. She's just creating that awareness to ensure that these business owners know that just as they try to embrace various aspects of technology, there is a risk if they are not well informed. So I think creating that awareness that such a problem exists, and this is what they can be exposed to if they do not carry out various safeguarding measures as a business, they are going to get into trouble. So we need to create awareness. Businesses need to see the importance. You don't want to get to a situation where you face an attack and you're struggling to find a way out before you now know that, oh, cybersecurity is a must-have, right? So we don't want businesses to get to that point. We need to learn from, other businesses that have faced various levels of attack. For example, Zoom during the COVID, they had a serious issue that, exposed them to huge losses just because of a cybersecurity issue. So we need to learn from such examples and ensure that we are taking the steps, these preventive measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, so Joseph, what policies do you think can be put in place to ensure gig workers have access to affordable training and upskilling opportunities to enhance their long-term career?
Okay, Mazia, thank you so much. And thank you to Precious and Enei for the initial comments they made. I think they've touched on a lot of policies that could work. I'll just add one more and then I'll look at ways that we can also build models. I think the other one will be to establish, most likely the government himself being very intentional about funding some of the trainings, because as we've mentioned that whether remote working or gig workers, they usually have to get some skills that are not your traditional skills that you have. They need to be able to work with collaborative tools online. They need to be able to understand how to manage their calendars. They need to be able to understand very sophisticated softwares that they use online. And acquiring the skills or getting the education for these skills can be very expensive, like data analytics, unless there is a scholarship or a grant fund that makes this possible for young people. This will be very hard for people who cannot even afford bread and butter in a day. So I think the government can be very intentional about setting up scholarship schemes that fund some of these training opportunities. We can also have private sector get involved in these areas to really help young people acquire this. And I think this can be one thing that the incubator and accelerator hubs can champion, because they are usually the ones that churn out a lot of tech-related businesses, and these tech-related businesses would need these skills from young people within the ecosystem to work with. Other than that, they would have to now be outsourcing the work to India or to other Western countries for skills, which will be even more expensive. So private sector, in terms of incubator hubs and accelerator spaces, will have to also be very intentional about training young people in the skills that are required for the gig economy to thrive and for all of us. Now, in addition to these, I would say that we need to begin recognizing gig workers and have regulatory establishments see them and oversee some of the things that go on within the gig working space. Now, some of these could be that we ensure fair wages to gig workers, because when someone has spent a lot of time, whether it was self-tuition or going to school to acquire certain skills, and they come out to want to now work for people, because they do not have full-time contract with these organizations, they are most often likely to be shortchanged. But it will be very crucial and important for government to have regulations in place that recognizes gig workers as much as it recognizes full-time workers of organizations, so that we can be protected in terms of fair wages, in terms of rating our skills and the kind of work that we do. At the same time, it should also be possible for us to implement schemes that go a long way to protect us socially. Talk about pension schemes, talk about SNET and social security. So all these things are very important for gig workers to understand and know that they have a future in this space, because I can tell you in the past few years, there's been a few people who veer towards the gig working area, and then in a short time they're like, okay, so my future is at stake because there's nobody paying my social security now. There is nobody paying me any consistent source of income. You have to now struggle to get contracts and works that you can implement or work to earn something. But if we have schemes in place to protect them, then for every work that you get to do, you can always negotiate and make sure that there is some percentage of whatever you have to pay that goes into your SNET or payment for your pension and all those things. So once these things are in place, we can be sure that we are doing well. And we should also be able to encourage the development of workers-owned cooperative platforms to promote democratic decision-making. As things stand now, gig workers are very, if I would put it, you have to negotiate for yourself. Even if you go onto some freelancing platforms that you have to identify your own rates. How much do you want to be paid per an hour? Sometimes you have to look at the industry standards, but you also have to consider you are an entry level or you are a mid-level or a senior level. How much do you charge for this? And so all these things, we would have to come together as gig workers to be able to agree on what measurements we want to go with and what ratings we want government and all the other organizations or people who contract us to work for them to recognize. If we are not together as one to come up with some of these ratings, it will be very difficult for us to be taken seriously. As things stand now, we negotiate by ourselves, we go in for contracts for all sorts of gigs by ourselves, and we are not very much protected. But if as gig workers, we recognize ourselves and come together as one, I think we can do a lot better and be able to negotiate on the table, not just to protect our present, but also our future. And so I think that's all I will add, barring all the policies that I've mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. So I'll move on to Tatenda really quickly. I wanted to say, my question to you would be that how can governments ensure the availability of reliable and high-speed internet connectivity in urban and rural areas to facilitate this of
All right. I think there are two approaches which are quite interconnected that I would say would be a good strategy to develop that. And just saying that it is already being implemented, but just to see it being implemented at a higher scale. So the first part would be investment, which has already been talked about a lot. And investment, be it personal or at a government level, always comes with kind of a nick of trying to understand what is the purpose and what is the benefit of this investment that I'm putting into. And looking into remote work, we are seeing a number of young people really going out there, be it into the big tech firms or looking outside of Africa into European and the Western countries. There is an uprise of a lot of young African people, citizens, and innovators that are getting jobs out there, which is quite beneficial. I think what would then tie in the second point to investment would be recognizing the value of what we already have within the African continent, which would be the CAFTA trade agreement. I know that that's something that's going to be discussed in more detail tomorrow, but leveraging the opportunity that comes from African trade, seeing how that we need to bridge the gap of digital divide through establishing newer and more developed systems that allow African countries to work together, will also encourage governments to also be more invested into developing digital infrastructure that's necessary for internet access and availability. What we come to find in a lot of ways is that internet access is completely, well, what I will say from my own perspective as a Zimbabwean, it is quite hard to have regular and reliable internet access due to the frequent power cuts, due to maintenance, and even the underdevelopment of infrastructure that's happening. But being able to shift the eyes or the mindsets of policymakers to see what the benefits of investing in our infrastructure will actually help us be able to get more and benefit more, especially when it comes to remote work. So there are a lot of industrial policies that need to be refined, and I think they can definitely be refined within the FCAFTA protocols, looking at it from a way that we're saying that we're looking at African digital governance, and we're also looking at a way in such that we are able to collaborate as Africans between Southern Africa, West Africa, North Africa, and the like. So being able to harness what we already have and seeing how we can make policies, draft policies, and agreements from that can enable us to actually have these things put into play. I do believe we can actually have more people going into remote work, more people having reliable internet access every day, and being able to use it from their mobile phones, being at home, using it from their laptops. Another perspective, which is currently being developed but can be implemented more, is actually to tap into the areas of civil work. So we're looking at our governments and our civil servants. And for example, one example that I could give would be our passport offices. Making the passports collection and application process completely automated means that civil servants don't need to work from an office no longer, but they can be doing the verification, all the requirements that are required to get a passport from home. So doing these kind of things will not only encourage the government to enable their civil servants to actually work from home, but it will then open up the doors to people who also work within the private sector and the like. And I think that's been talked about before, how private sectors can also partner with governments to make that happen, and also removing some of the stringent policies, such as the permits that are required, such that we can also promote competitivity within the sphere of telecommunications. Having more people playing, more young people in the playing field will also encourage, just development and innovation within the space. But the challenge that most young people have when it comes to entering these spaces is the barriers to entry. It becomes steep, it becomes high for them to establish their businesses, establish their startups, but lowering the barriers to entry will enable more people to enter in the game and to actually provide solutions that are more feasible and make connectivity something that's much easier to do. So I think those 3 points, circling on just investments, the CAFTA, and the last point which I raised about competitivity, I think that would definitely bring governments to a more committed space and mindset when it comes to increasing internet access.
Awesome. Don't mute your mic yet, because just to belabor on top of what you said and build a little bit, I'm thinking now, how can organizations ensure fair access to digital opportunity for underrepresented, right? In women, marginalized communities, and what kind of initiatives can these organizations also can to bridge the digital divide?
I think on that, I think organizations definitely need to be intentional about how they go about looking at women and youth when it comes to empowering them. So one of the things I'll always go back to of CAFTA, what they're really trying to do is to promote women and youth in trade, especially in digital trade. So having our organizations, startups, actually create initiatives, education programs and the like that allow young people and underrepresented groups to have a chance and an opportunity to learn. There's so many things that can be done. So I think an example that I can give, just going back to an example of the drone technology space, a lot of young people, a lot of women want to learn how to use drones. A lot of people want to go into the field of agriculture, but because of the limitations that they may not have the land, they may not have access to the plots, they may not have the time to always be going there because they have 3 other jobs that they have to juggle. Allowing organizations to actually empower them to do training programs that can allow them to work remotely, whereby, for example, you're doing like a flight over a particular plot of land where you're doing it once every 2 weeks. You're able to program the flight plan that you're going to do 2 weeks prior. You've already mapped it out and you probably need to be on site probably once every 2 weeks. Being able to empower young women, being able to empower young people to actually have these skills development and be able to do this allows them to also broaden their opportunities. So it's not that one now has to work within an office from 8 to 5, but they have another number of things that they can juggle and put around. So such initiatives that allow people to free their time whilst also leveraging on the existing technologies that are there will also enhance and empower people financially such that they can see themselves working in more than just one limited space, but also broaden their horizons. So I think that's one way that that can be tackled.
Thank you very much for that. So Annie, I was also wanting to see what you thought on what steps organizations could take to promote gender equality in these digital roles, right? Especially in fields traditionally dominated by men. How can organizations address the gender pay gap and ensure equitable compensation also?
Okay, thank you so much for this question. Addressing the digital gender divide is really crucial for today's economy. And I believe to promote gender equality in digital roles, organizations can begin to invest in trainings and job transition services so that more females can transition effectively to these fields. Another thing organizations can do is integrate pay transparency tools. Pay transparency offers a relatively simple and intuitive tool that can be used to identify and address the gender gap wage in workplaces. So the government can come in to implement policies that would function well in publicizing gender wage gaps. And then they can also legislate to ensure the foundational concept of equal pay for work of equal value exists. And this would help organizations correct the historical undervaluation of jobs typically held by women. So another thing we could do still with the pay transparency tools is that organizations can identify the most important wage gap statistics, and this would be reported periodically to the government. So the government would also need to step in. This is to address this issue. It's not just an organization thing, a government thing. They need to come hand in hand to ensure that the solution is being perfect. So the government can ensure that there is an improvement in the quality of reporting and follow-up action plans for those organizations that choose to adopt a pay transparency tool. They can even go as far as enforcing or setting up a dedicated government actor or a labor inspector or a certified external auditor that would ensure that they can improve compliance and the quality of reporting so that from time to time the gender wage gap can be accessed, and they can come up with guidelines to improve it. Lastly, organizations can look into dedicating resources to more and better impact evaluations, including research on both wage outcomes and policy process outcomes as well. So this is what I think. Thank you so much.
So Precious, I was wondering what your thoughts were on how education institutions can play a role in preparing individuals from diverse backgrounds for digital career. What partnerships or initiatives can be established between organizations and educational institutions to promote diversity and inclusion?
Okay, thank you so much, moderator. So before I answer this question, I wanted to give two feedbacks, right? So first is, I've been hearing about, all through this conversation today, we've been talking about how we can help young people, right? Scale through the future of work, that's remote working. But I've not really seen or heard when we talk about businesses, right? How businesses thrive in this particular sector. Now, when I mean businesses, how can we build trust? So we know that, like, we have the good and the negative part of remote working, where I think the other day I saw on Twitter where an employer came and was ranting, right? He or she employed someone to be a programs officer for him or her. I don't want to mention name. And they agreed on deliverables for that month. And they also agreed on pay. So the first month came, they couldn't meet their deliverables. And they always said, oh, I'm working. Second month, she said, you know what? I need you to resume office physically because I can't continue paying and not getting results. Now, we don't really have those conversations, right? So while we advocate for young people having an enabling environment, right, to thrive in the future of work as it relates to remote work, we also need to see how can we develop trust, right? The trust quotient between the young people and how they relate with companies needs to be established, right? That's why I love the system the West deploys the remote work. They're already prototyping that for the rest of I don't want to call it not the rest of the world in a sense. So what I do is we can start developing products that can build, if we can't trust human, they can regulate how people engage with services and also their workplace system. That's one. Now, secondly, right, we've had this robust conversation. And I think to move this forward from the policy point of view, I think the deliberations and conversations should not just end here. We should actually develop a policy brief that would be sent to key stakeholders, right, across Africa. I could see people from Ghana, Zimbabwe, and the rest of them. So the part of this conversation, it's a global meeting, right? So we have to share these feedbacks and policy briefs that we have developed from this meeting. That's one of the things I wanted to add before answering this question. So back to my question. How education institutes can play a very key role. Yeah, they play a very vital role, preparing young persons for this future of digital career. One of the things that they can do to actually align and prepare individuals is one, curriculum enhancement. Now, when you go on every platform, right, you hear people talking about curriculum enhancement, reevaluating the curriculum. And it's not just for Nigeria alone, it's for other African countries. Right? We've been talking about this, we've been advocating about this. If our curriculum is not enhanced to include digital skill trainings, right, coding, data analysis, cybersecurity, and the likes that will be relevant in this fourth revolution, there'll be a problem. We can't continue doing all things and expect new results. I was in Lagos last week and I went to visit the College of Technology. I might not get the college, yes, the College of Technology, yes. I got in there and I dressed as a student. I just went to observe. And one would believe that, oh, since it's a college of technology, their specialty is building and preparing people for the future of work, digital careers and the likes, green jobs, right? I got there. I entered into one classroom, and this lecturer was teaching, what was he teaching again? That's into one course in a sense, and he was just doing it manually. There was no system. There was no links to further reading. I know I can't just really judge the full curriculum, but this is what I saw. So if you are a college of education, how are you preparing these students to thrive in their respected field? That's a problem. So if you have curriculums that are enhanced, that captures these key ingredients that will prepare young persons, right? They leave institutions better people. In that process, you instill trust, instill these values. That when you say, you know what, 5 minutes is 5 minutes, I'm delivering on this task for 10 hours, and it's 10 hours, or it's 5 hours, and you stick to that, and then productivity is enhanced. Because we can't just get for young people and forget about businesses when they don't get the amount of productivity they need. And the next thing in terms of partnership and initiative is the education institutions should actually be intentional in developing diversity inclusion programs. Yes. Now, for example, my organization right? We have a system wherein we partner with institutions to prepare students for the future of work. We have different projects and programs that we have designed to ensure that these young persons do not just leave school and get stranded. They leave school and they're equipped with the right skills they need to thrive in this future we're talking about, in the fourth revolutions. Now, this diversity actually goes further into reaching the underrepresented groups in the digital field. So most persons might not have, let's always talk about balance. So we don't just go the extreme and forget about what's going on behind, right? Creating that balance, that diversity and inclusion program is something that once our curriculums, it's a chicken and egg, once our curriculum is enhanced, right? You're going to see that these key components, these key programs will be infused into the curriculum. So there wouldn't be any loopholes in a sense. That's if they involve policy analysts like me in those reviews, that would sell for them. And lastly, I think, this is also that said something about partnerships, right? Education institutions should not see the side of the wing as competitors. They should see them as enablers, right? The NGOs, the civil society are in this fight together, right? That's why you can see that a lot of mentorship programs are going on. You can see different industry-sponsored projects currently going on for students, and this is where the lecturers, the HOD, the admin should handshake both the private sector and other industries that are interested in helping this, in collaborating with these educational institutions, right, to bridge the gap between the academia and the digital field, because these guys, they have the real hands-on experience. Something happened that I really love, right, from a secondary school to be precise, in Abuja, right? I got an email from the school requesting that my office is used for an internship space. And I asked, oh, is this a university? He said, no, this is a secondary school in Abuja. And they want their students to come and learn how we navigate the future of work, how we are able to solve real-time problems. And this is a place of partnership and collaboration, which I highly commend. Can institutions start collaborating with industry experts, right? Industry partners. Because once this handshake is done, right, a lot of real world scenarios and opportunities would shake hands, would rub off each other. And so we're building competent people, competent young individuals who would leave school, who would leave academia and come into the job space and compete unequivocally. So everyone has their fair share, both the people and the industry experts as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. And it leads me directly to Joseph, where I wanted to just ask you about what role can leadership play in driving diversity and inclusion, right? And the efforts in the digital world. in the digital workspace? And how can leaders set the tone and create an environment that fosters equality and equitable opportunities across the board in the development of our ecosystem as a
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Precious. I think Precious has already done justice to a lot of the inclusivity and equity that we'll be looking for. But again, I'll just touch on a few things. So I think all this boils down, and again, because Precious wanted us to speak about businesses, I'll limit my leadership to businesses. I'm not talking about governments now. So the leadership within organizations, within businesses have a very key role to play. And this is very important because they will be the ones to set the tone for however the organization works. And it goes down to looking at what is the culture within the organization that you are building. So when she talks about remote workers not being able to meet their deliverables and the organization is now going back to call them to come back to the office. Now, I notice very often, and because in my organization, we do a lot of internship placements, that when the organization is telling you that your staff are not delivering, it's because oftentimes the work or task that they are giving to the interns are not very clearly specified. So you wouldn't be able to even tell when a deliverable has been completed or when it's totally done. And oftentimes, to again, the young people also, knowing that they are now working remotely, always want to add a few other things on the side to whatever they are supposed to do. And this will go down to what remuneration or support systems are in place within the organization that makes them feel adequate working for you alone. Because again, it all goes down to the bread and butter issue. If you are paying me well and I'm working for you alone from home and it's able to cater for myself, my family, and everyone, then I'm definitely going to dedicate all the time that I have to you. But again, that's a subject for another day. So to speak about specifically what leadership can do to ensure that they promote inclusivity and equity within organizations, I think it goes, the first thing that we need to look at is the mainstreaming, gender mainstreaming policies. And when I talk about gender mainstreaming policies, I'm not going to limit it to just the debate about women and men. It's also going to look at the underrepresented. So people with disabilities, persons that are not able to even work from certain environments or communities. I think all these people, we must make sure that we have a mainstreaming policy within our organizations that helps to bring all these people on board. We have to be able to tap from each of them where their strengths lie, understand their weaknesses, and make room to accommodate all of them. And I think leadership can do this by, first of all, enacting a gender or a vulnerability mainstreaming policy within organizations, where they make room for each and every person that is underrepresented to also now be able to come on board for whatever projects we are running within the organization. That's the first thing. The second thing will be to enforce whatever has been stipulated within this gender mainstreaming or gender mainstreaming policy. So whatever policy we've developed to help the underrepresented, we need to be able to also enforce it so it doesn't become a white paper lying down and nobody touches it, nobody does anything with it. But at least we are enforcing it in our recruitment. We should be able to see that there is room for a certain percentage of persons with disabilities. There is room for a certain percentage of women to be able to be considered. And so we should see that equity starting from recruitment. We should also see it within the interview stage. Give room for everyone to be able to exhibit their talents, understand their weaknesses, know how you'll be able to accommodate this and create an open communication within the organization so people can freely speak to you and have safe spaces also, because I think I've worked with one organization before that one of our leaders, he seems to be very interested in the staff's welfare and everything. But every time he speaks to you and you let him know all your problems, the next thing you see, he's using your problems to advise another staff or to advise a friend. And I think when we do Zoom within organizations, it doesn't create room for people to feel confident and understand that this is a safe space that they can voice out whatever they are feeling. So I think we need to be able to create that safe space within the organizations, and the leaders are supposed to take the initiative and start this. And so once we promote open communication and force some of these policies that we've mentioned, we should also be able to take seriously non-discriminatory stance. We should be able to also look at harassments that go on within the organizations and be firm about not tolerating some of these things within the organization. And regularly, we must always review and look at these policies because things are changing. And the more things change, we have to look at ways that we can do away with the biases that we start our organizations or companies with, and then embrace inclusivity and bring in more people to help them also understand what we are doing, push this message and make sure that it reaches everyone. And typically in organizations that I consult for and try to help, I always say this, and I create a shadow boardroom where all these things are considered, and every individual within the organization has a table or has a chair when it comes to making decisions within the organization, so that everyone will feel heard, everyone will be able to say that, okay, I also contributed to this work, and as such, you promote diversity, you promote teamwork, you promote collaboration within the organizations. And that's the way I see that leaders can promote inclusivity and equity within the organizations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a great answer. And I would like to, there's some questions that came up from the participants. I would like, I think you, Joseph, address these, and we see if anyone has some other opinion, like to shed some light on any other questions. First question is, will AI make the gig economy process more redundant? If you could just give us a little bit of a response for the participant who asked that question, Joseph.
Yeah, if you can just come again, will AI make the gig economy worse?
Redundant.
No, really. AI, I think if anything, like either Precious or Patenda mentioned, we should see AI as an enabler, as something that's going to really facilitate the work that we do as gig workers, because really all the tools that we use, all the softwares and everything, I think in the past few years, as a program manager, I used to sit down, come up with a lot of ideas, do a lot of typing and writing. But now with just ChatGPT, you are able to just create a concept note with ease, within seconds. A concept note is created for you. Then you can sit down, make a few touches to it, and then you are good to go, you're on the run. So I think what AI will do really is to facilitate and enable the work that we do. So we shouldn't see it as it's going to make the work of individuals redundant, but rather it's going to really facilitate and enable the work that we do. And again, just I think Katanda mentioned it is important that we look at AI not as a replacer of certain skills or roles within organizations, but you have to now put yourself in a position where you are qualified to manage the processes that AI will go through to deliver certain results. So you could be a manager, you could be a developer, or you could be the one that maintains whatever the AI comes up with or develops. So these are the ways that you can think about what AI will bring to the gig economy. But I think it's a beautiful future. If I look at it as one that has been doing freelancing and gig, participating in the gig economy for quite some time now, I think AI is more of an enabler for us, something to render us redundant. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. This next question, any one of you can answer. But before I go into that, thank you so much for joining the Africa Digital Governance Summit. I hope you have learned a lot from the session. We had very insightful and detailed answers and discussions from our esteemed speakers and panel. We will be having a breakout session just after this. It will be for 10 minutes, and we'll put you in groups of, I think, 6 or so. The groups are sectioned to artificial intelligence, digital skills, workforce transformation, finance and trade, remote work, and gig economy, right? And I believe that everybody's working in the background to make sure you're able to join too. Essentially, what you do is to introduce yourself, network. This is a networking opportunity. This is the once in a lifetime opportunity. There's many people on the call from across the world. So introduce yourself, who you are, and get into a discussion on the theme of the breakout, and get some questions also, so that when you come back, you can have some more direct questions for our speakers. And also make sure that you exchange with the participants in the breakout. If the facilitation team has anything else to add, you can add it after I finish asking my questions to my panelists. So the last question from the participants was, with the level of education in Africa, how do we extend knowledge on IT to students in rural areas, low internet connections, and also no access to equipment? So I think anyone can go on this, but even just before that, I believe that just like I think Tatenda mentioned it, awareness is key. Tatenda or any. Awareness is key, and we need to be very intentional about some of these drives and initiatives from a governmental perspective, private sector perspective, because having more skilled workers enables us to have staff for our fintech startups, right? Instead of outsourcing some of these developments to China, to India, and to so many other places. Really develop our human resource for the next revolution. So this would like to respond to Tatenda, also please, Hugo.
All right, thank you so much for this question. I think one of the most important things to consider, especially when reaching rural communities, is in developing outreach programs that are effective and are also applicable to the communities that we're going to. So for example, if we're looking at educational initiatives that can be employed in a rural area where mining is very prevalent, or for example, we're looking to see how wastewater treatment can be effectively managed. At a high school level, even at a primary school level, being able to teach someone about why wastewater coming from a mining area can be toxic and harmful just at a theoretical level, really, it doesn't hold as much value as actually putting someone within the process and actually allowing them to see it at their level of understanding and appreciating what's happening. So one example that I can give, there's this new technology, it was developed, it's called mini PCR, where they do sampling of environmental DNA within an environment. So what students do, it's a kit that they can use, and they don't have to go physically to a laboratory where they need to use specific reagents. The kits have the ready-made reagents that are there, and they're able to actually samples from their own environment. So for example, if they're within a rural community that's close to a mining center, that then they're able to actually go to those centers, pick up those samples, and actually be able to see and analyze what kinds of things that they'll see. Or if it's not environmental DNA, then they're looking at certain toxicity levels. Are there levels of lead, of
toxic chemicals and toxic metals that are there. Once you are able to kind of open up their eyes to see it for themselves, it engages and promotes curiosity within them. So being able to have these kinds of projects, these kind of programs and outreach programs, most of them are done within the city, the capital city, which is great, but it's does have some bias because most of these cities do have a reasonable amount of infrastructure that allows students or young people to actually learn and appreciate what's going on. But being able to actually reach the underrepresented communities and reach them at their level of understanding and the way that they live life. So if it's someone in the mining community, someone that lives close to an industrial zone, someone that lives close to an agricultural space, and tailor making initiatives that actually targets what would actually benefit their community will also help them look at it from the perspective of, okay, I'm a young student and I'm seeing all this that is happening. How am I going to be able to create solutions to these problems that I'm facing? So it's a multifaceted approach in which you're not only conscientizing them to what's happening, but you're also giving them an opportunity to see how they can solve the problems. So it then becomes a ripple effect where they need to work hand in hand with other stakeholders, such that it doesn't just end at education of, I'm just showing you that this is what's out here, but it's now we need to bring people into programs that allow them to develop, such as what Precious was talking about. A lot of companies do their skills development programs or even their young mentorship programs for young people who are just finishing high school, looking to start university, or graduate trainee programs. Most of these things are done, but they need to be done at a higher level. And I think it would also be great to encourage more businesses, more startups to actually involve that within their processes, such that they're retaining a viable workforce. They're not only training them for their own benefit, but training them in the hopes that they're also able to return and then feed into the lessons that they've learned to benefit the companies that they've been served by. So I think that would be my response to that. I hope it does justice. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. Joseph, yes, please let me hear from you. Really great answer, Tender.
Yes, thank you so much. And just to add to what Tender has already mentioned, so these tailored outreaches are very key and crucial because oftentimes when we talk, we say that, okay, the rural areas lack internet connectivity and resources and tools. I think these are prevalent even in some of our cities. You have a population that lives in very underrepresented communities that do not have access to these sophisticated tools or resources that they can also use to take advantage of the things that we are discussing now. I think some of the ways, like Tatenda has mentioned, could be that we leverage on used technology or soft laptops, computers, and if it is possible for organizations to harness a few that's within the cities that can be into these communities, it will be very key and important that we send these to these rural areas. Oftentimes, the infrastructure that is already non-existent, we can push for government to send these things there, but we know it won't happen today. So we most likely would have to now find alternative ways that they can still power the tools that you send to them. I think this can be secondhand tools. I remember in 2016, 2017, thereabouts, some colleagues of mine were building, together with myself, we were building libraries within rural communities and sending books that we collected from people who did not have use for such books anymore. I think it's about time we do the same things. I see a few organizations that do this already, but I think it's important that we also make sure that people understand that there are certain things we cannot leapfrog. We may have to start from step 1, go to step 2. And internet has not always been with us, even within the city. So before internet came about, what were we using these computers for? We can still send these computers to the villages. They can start interacting with these computers even before government now proceeds to send the infrastructure and the internet and everything that is needed to these rural areas. So I feel like it will be important to have the resources move to these people and to the people within the rural areas for use. Again, like the Tanda said, the approaches that we can use to teach them. We can look at very important and real simulation approaches that can bring out the learnings and the applications of these tools that we are bringing to them to help them appreciate the concepts that we are teaching even before they have access to the real internet and can make use of this. So I think simulation, using some board games and all that to help them appreciate some of these tools before we even bring internet to their abode will also go a long way to help with the drive. So thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much for that response also. I think that that is very, very critical that we understand that there are physical processes underlying some of these things before the technology comes on top of it. One great example also is with my work with GD Trust. GD Trust is a financial institution company that focuses on using financial literacy, right? So what we do is that we teach market women and farmers about how to manage their money. And we also have an app that they can use to start managing their expenses and their bookkeeping. But we do the training in the local language in a physical manner in a way that they're able to pick up the actual concepts of personal financial management. Then they can use a book, they can use an app, they can use anything to build that skill and use it for their businesses, right? It has been a great discussion. I've been honored to be the of a panel. Before we wrap up, I think that we can now break out into the separate breakout rooms, have a quick 10 minutes discussion on the specific things that we choose. And then we come back and then we wrap up with our last questions for the panel. And please, Chukwuemeka or yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. To our speakers, to our panelists, and the moderator, and also to the guests today, we have had a very amazing conversation. So we have opened up the breakout rooms, and we have 5 rooms, and you have been assigned to different rooms, but all the speakers have been assigned to a particular room for the briefing. And so you will see the link come up shortly. You can join now and start the discussions. So it's basically for networking and also to getting to know about the particular 10 minutes could go very quick. Let's go. Let me know if you can see the
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
I think they're slowly coming back. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. I hope we had a great networking session and discussion. Aha. So I want to encourage more interaction. So I'm hoping you nominated at least one person. Catherine. So I was hoping we could engage more, and you nominated one person from your breakout group. Even if you didn't, you can volunteer and speak about the people that you met in your breakout group and what you were able to discuss within the period of time that you had. So volunteer. I want to see, if you're ready, just unmute your mic and speak. Please speak for less than 1 minute, so 60 seconds per person. If you don't volunteer, I'll find you.
Okay, I'm going to volunteer. Hi, I'm Deborah. And in my room, we didn't know we had to volunteer. So, but I spoke to Eniola. She's in Lagos. I'm from Ghana. And what do we do? She works with Felpets in Nigeria in the sales department. And I am in Ghana. So yeah, that's what we discussed, getting to know each other. And then we exchanged our LinkedIn handles to connect later. Thank you.
Great one there, great one there. I also exchanged LinkedIn's with many people in my breakout group. Okay, I see Catherine put a text. I had a nice talk with Mubarak, and I'm grateful for the time in the breakout group. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Someone else should volunteer their experience also. You can type in the chat if that works better for you. So, but just unmute your mic. Let me hear your beautiful voice also. Thank you very much, Deborah, for your contribution. Do we have any further questions also for our speakers? This is your chance.
I think we can close the session now.
Okay, close the session.
Thank you, have exceeded our connection. Thank you again, everyone, for the amazing conversation, and our moderator, Mazio, for taking this keynote on a ride. Our speakers, Mr. Joseph Zoto, Eneyochi, Tatenda Murigo, and Precious Gem, Berry, we really appreciate you. On behalf of the Port Harcourt team, we say thank you again. And remember, the session continues tomorrow from 9 a.m. with a session on mental health, addressing mental health crisis. Looking forward to seeing you again. Have a wonderful evening from here. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening, everybody.
Okay, enjoy the evening. Bye.
Thank you, Mazio. Thank you, Joseph, Tasha. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, the candidates. Really appreciate you for coming on. Thank you guys, and we hope to see you tomorrow in the session.
Thank you.